What up? What up? What up? Wow. Feels good to be back. This is the 21st episode of the Backwards K Baseball Podcast. I am Chris Asbrock, and I am your host today. And as always, each and every week when we have a show, I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, and I know he's happy as hell right now, Scott Kaiser. Scott, my man, how you doing, buddy?
Better than a couple hours ago. Good God. Braves waiting to the last possible minute to kick the door in. Jesus Christ, but we're in. Life is good. I'll go lose 2 games in San Diego and call it season.
Get your shit kicked in out west and come back home, and it's all good.
God.
Hey, but you know what? You're in.
Yes, and I guess losing 2 games against somebody not named Philadelphia will be a change of pace from the last 2 years, so that's cool.
You know, see, there's positives in all of this. At least your team's in.
Yeah, man. The last month, I know we did the one show like right after Labor Day or right before Labor Day, and it has been a crazy month of baseball. But we're here. We made it. It's the postseason. We have all of the shit to talk about. All of the shit.
Dude, it's crazy because, you know, when we were kind of going through and we're like, well, we obviously couldn't do a couple shows because we know we had things going on. And then there was the one week we could have done a show. And we were just kind of talking. We're like, no, because there's literally nothing to talk about. It was
it was a couple of weeks ago, and things were still kind of middling as far as the playoff races. Man. Nothing had happened like big news wise. It was just kind of like, it was like, well, we could do a show, but it's just be repeating ourselves from the previous weeks and kind of like, well, we're just kind of hanging out until the postseason starts. And, you know, what a difference 2 weeks makes, because here we are 2 weeks later, and I feel like we don't have enough time to talk about everything.
Oh, there's not a chance in hell we're going to get through all this stuff.
Crazy.
Not a chance in hell.
So,
damn, let's get into it.
Yeah, where do you want to lead off? Like, where do you want to start?
First,
I think we should go on ahead and start where you're going to start. So I'll let you go on ahead and intro.
P. Rose.
Yeah, go for
it. So the news came out literally just, a little bit ago. Baseball's all-time hit leader, the hit king, Pete Rose, had passed away at age 83. It was weird because I had texted you, you know, you were talking about the Braves win. And then, you know, I was like, oh, hey, by the way, and I said, it just popped up that, you know, that they had announced that, you know, Pete Rose had passed away. And then on Sports Center, it was great seeing Eduardo Perez on there talking about the game. And then he broke the news on there. He confirmed with Pete Rose Jr., you know, he said is his brother. You know, he, you know, growing up in the Big Red Machine, those guys were in the clubhouse all the time together. And, you know, Eduardo has always talked about how close he is to Pete Rose Jr. And, you know, he confirmed it with him that, you know, that Pete had passed away. And, man, it's tough. It's, you know, being in the Cincinnati area, we know, you know, as controversial as Pete Rose is, or, you know, it was, man, you know, one hell of a baseball player. The greatest hitter we've ever seen. Like I said, the hit king. It just sucks, you know, for, you know, Cincinnatians here, you know, he was born and raised, you know, here. It's, you know, tough. And, so, you know, our thoughts and prayers, condolences, you know, from everyone here at Backwards K go out to the Reds organization, you know, obviously the Pete Rose family, and friends and everything like that. So, Scott, real quick, you know, when I kind of broke the news to you, you know, we were just kind of you and I were like, oh man, you know, kind of, you know, you want to say a few things real quick before?
I guess it was just like shocking more than anything.
Yeah,
you know, they had the Pete Rose HBO documentary that came out a few months ago. When you watch it, I don't know, man. When you sent the news, it was surprising because you're just not expecting to hear it. You had Dikembe Mutombo passing this afternoon, so that was still like fresh in mind, and he died from brain cancer, relatively young compared to Pete Rose, you know, in his mid-50s. And then, you know, Pete Rose presumably dying of natural causes at 83. But just the dichotomy of the two different people. And yeah, we live in Cincinnati, and obviously as baseball fans, very familiar. And Pete Rose was just a very complicated human being. A lot of off the field stuff that just rather not talk about, and then there's the gambling and just his insistence on just kind of running his mouth and talking his way out of what he had done in his career and his life. I don't know. It's just real hard for me to kind of wrap my head around it at the moment, because Pete Rose, the person, Hall of Fame, first ballot, piece of shit, and baseball player, obviously Hall of Fame, first ballot, should be in, but obviously baseball has their rules, and it sucks because I've spent most of my adult life saying that Pete Rose will probably get into the Hall of Fame the moment he passes, because he just spent most of my adult life, at least, putting himself in a position where the people in charge have a really hard time getting past everything he says and has done, and he just kept putting his foot in his mouth. And I mean, even up until that documentary, like even through that documentary, it's just like, Pete is just the same old guy at 82. I'll give him credit for that. He stayed true to himself. Pete never changed, and that's kind of unfortunate in his case, because, like I said, not the greatest person in the world. So it's very unfortunate that he died, and I see a lot of people tap dancing and doing all that. There's time to talk about all that, but it's sad just in general when somebody like that, and he's meant a whole lot to Cincinnati. I know people here revere him, and people that grew up watching him, like, he's definitely a big presence in this city. And I imagine that my day at work is going to suck a whole lot of ass tomorrow, because it's going but cutting a bunch of heroes videos. So there's that.
Yeah, you enjoy.
It was seriously, it was one of my first thoughts was, fuck, work's gonna suck tomorrow.
God, it's gonna suck bad now.
when big time Cincinnatians pass, it's like, oh damn, man. These initial there's loss, but it's like, oh fuck, my life's gonna be hell tomorrow at work. And it sounds crappy, but the way my shift works, if somebody like this, if Pete was gonna do this, he could have done me a solid and done it like right at 10 o'clock this morning, so that it kind of would have been like back of the news cycle. We kind of just would have been like, oh, it's still sad. We're still mourning a loss. Oh man, this is going to be fresh. Like it happened in between shows, like the 11 o'clock. Obviously they're going to do a big, but tomorrow morning, it's going to be all Pete all the time. And
oh yeah,
I'm already dreading it. So there's that.
Yeah, but one thing we can't agree on: everything with Pete, all self-inflicted, and that's on him, man.
That's what sucks. Yeah. It really hurts, because he was given so many opportunities to just, if he could have just got out of his own way, the Pete Rose story would be way different.
But you know what? He's baseball. Baseball can't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
So it's honestly a perfect marriage, because again,
it's very baseball.
Yeah, that is the epitome of it. It's like I said, it sucks because of what he is here in Cincinnati. But again, like you said, he's a first ballot piece of shit, and that's like, that's the
best you can say.
Well, that's the thing is, you kind of tie it onto the Vince McMahon thing we were talking about the other day, and you were like, hey, I gotta watch out. I'm like, well, it confirms that he was a piece of shit too. Like, it is what it is. And again, it's all self-inflicted, and that's what sucks, because it didn't have to be that way. But it is, and you know what? You can't really. Like I just said, it does. It sucks here because, I mean, obviously you never want anybody to kick it like that, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, it's just So, but yeah, well, let's get on to some fun stuff now, I guess.
On to the games.
Yeah. Well, do we want to talk about playoffs, or should we go talking the fun stuff in terms of the Reds?
Let's
keep it in the family.
I was just gonna say, let's get all the Reds news out up front.
Yes, damn.
In terms of the overall impact on the season and everything, it's like that didn't, obviously doesn't impact too much except for here locally, but shocking still that the Reds would go on ahead and fire David Bell. Now, you and I have talked about it, and this was a long time coming, honestly. Writing's been on the wall for a while, and the timing was odd. Most times they just kind of let the manager finish the season out, but Reds were in a hurry. And I know you have plenty of thoughts on this. I have a couple of thoughts on, the direction they should go, but this is a big, a big moment in this franchise. Like, this is one of those forks in the roads, and they got to get this right. They really.
You know what? Spoiler alert: they're not going to get it right because, and it's I'm not trying to be funny here, but like
I know
this organization, they suck. This organization is awful, from ownership to the front office, brutal. And I feel bad for David Bell because not all of this is his fault. Now, he's the scapegoat. He's taking the fall. I totally get it. I bashed him, on this show before, and I think it was just more out of frustration. But again, it's not all this is his fault. What the hell is he supposed to do when your front office does not support you like they should, like a normal front office would, by giving you the proper pieces, to make a playoff run or compete at any freaking level of baseball? This organization has failed to do that for him, and it sucks. And like I said, I feel bad for David Bell because, again, it's not all on him. But the ownership, Castellini's, they're awful. They have just been abysmal. And the front office with Nick Kroll and Dick Williams, those guys before, they atrocious. They have not done a good job. And, they were lucky enough last year that they fell into guys who came up and kicked ass, and they were able to get away with it. But what did they do? Nothing. They didn't do anything to help this team out, and look where we are. It's another year, and I don't understand why, this organization continues to, spin their tires. It makes no sense to me. Because in Cincinnati, one thing about this town is when it comes to, it's like all the pro sports teams compete against themselves in terms of, okay, hey, for example, FC Cincinnati, they came in, they were the new kids on the block, 2016, 2017, 2018, and they forced the Bengals' hand in terms of, okay, well, shit, now we have to compete. And each one of these franchises hold the other accountable, except for the Reds. The Reds continue to manage to screw it up because the front office refuses to make moves to help this team move forward. And like you said, they have to get it right, and they do. I mean, this is a crucial piece, and I've seen some of the names floated around, and I love the names floated around, which we'll talk about here in a minute. I have zero confidence they're going to get it right. I don't feel good about it. Hopefully they prove me wrong, but again, the way this team runs, I'm not feeling good about it.
Okay, so we're just going to skip all of my thoughts and just get straight to the point. There's only one choice here, and it's Barry Larkin, right? Like, they need to hire Barry Larkin.
He doesn't want it.
I know he doesn't want it, but
so no. Honestly, the name I would like, and I know Rex will like it, is Tito Francona. I think Tito would be amazing.
But isn't he done? But isn't he done? Like, he retired from managing, because he had health problems. I mean, I don't is he a viable option?
I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. Skip Schumacher is the other one that.
Everything I heard from Francona from when he left Cleveland is just that it was age, health, all that.
Yeah, and I agree. But think about it. Same thing was with Urban Meyer. But then how quickly that changed. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's what until.
Well, I'm not going to put Tito in the same category as Urban Meyer.
You know what the hell I mean?
No, I know.
Don't
Money
be a
talk.
dick, Scott. We're not doing this.
Well, I just don't want to lump anybody in with Urban Meyer because Urban Meyer's reasons for leaving jobs are usually less than wholesome. Whereas
but what I'm saying is
Tito is having
Jesus. Issues. You know what? I forget I even said anything.
Horrible comparison, but I get your point.
No, you don't.
Like you said, Skip Schumacher. That's an interesting one. See, I don't think though that the Reds need to go. Like, if you're gonna go former player, that it's got to be somebody that like played and who has some like chutzpah behind him. I'm like, Skip Schumacher would be a guy that if the Cardinals were going to make a change, that makes sense there. Like, he's a fan favorite for the Cardinals. Like, I don't think that it makes much sense for him to come in Cincinnati. Like, I don't think he does anything differently than what Bell just did. I mean, it's a similar situation. I highly doubt that Skip's going to be in a hurry to jump into another position like he was in Florida, where he doesn't have ownership behind him and he's out there just left to dry, coaching a team that doesn't have many prospects outside of the names. So I don't know. I mean, I love the idea of Barry Larkin taking over this team.
Oh, I do too. Barry's who I want.
That would be incredible.
Barry doesn't want it though.
Yeah, because he's smart enough to know. Like, he knows.
He
exactly,
sees right on.
Right, he sees what it is. He's around too much, so.
Yeah,
look, as far as legit like options, I mean, I got nothing. Like, I don't know who could come in here and take this team where they need to go. Like, there's a lot of young guys, so you want to go older. And I know that like Major League Baseball tends to, like, lately they've been skewing and hiring all these former players who are all in like their mid 40s, generally when they're starting out. You got Kotsay and guys like that are managers, and even Schumacher. But I mean, I don't know of any of those guys running around out there right now, or that I've heard about, that are like next in line or like ready to take that jump. So I guess it'll be interesting to see what the Reds do over the next couple of months. I mean, I assume that that's mission number one. Like, you get a manager in before you start making moves and getting to the winter meetings and doing all that stuff, I would assume. So,
yeah. I mean, I know, I look in here, I see Rex. He had mentioned, are there any NCAA coaches who could make the jump? The one guy that I would do is Tony Vitello at Tennessee. I think he would be a phenomenal option here, but he ain't leaving Tennessee. The dude's got it made there. So, and why the hell would you make the jump again when you have no, support from your front office? It's pointless. Right. That's the problem, and that's what, like you were saying, Barry's not going to make that jump. Why the hell would he? I mean, like you said, he sees the writing on the wall. I wouldn't even remotely. Some guy who's going to take it is going to be like a bench coach somewhere, or we promote within. That's what it's going to be.
Is there anybody on staff that didn't? I mean, that wouldn't have been kept around? Like, because I mean, most of the time when these managers go, their whole staffs go. So can't think of anybody in the Reds dugout. Do you know of anybody in the Reds dugout that was kind of in that position that you'd be like, they'd be all right to like take over?
I know. Is it Colin Cowgill? He's the first base coach. I know he coached. I want to say the Mariners AA Arkansas a couple years ago, before he had made the move over to Cincinnati. But other than that, I mean, Freddie Benavides would be the only other one that's, but yeah, he had 5 games. I don't know if he has any previous managerial experience, prior to that, but yeah, I just,
Yeah, I think it's tough because Major League Baseball moved away from that era and that way that a lot of sports do with coaching. Like, the NFL kind of got away from it too, where it was just like you had this pool of guys and the league kind of just funneled around that same pool of guys. And yeah, you'd have your coordinators that kind of pop up here and there, but Major League Baseball was kind of in that same way where it's just like there's this group. And maybe there were like 2 or 3 on the outside at a given time. Jack McKeon's name was always, and Jim Leland. Those names were always kind of lurking. But Major League Baseball has moved on to like I said, where they're kind of just hiring out of nowhere. I mean, Matt Barr's bringing up the fact that the Giants today fired Zahidi, their GM, and Buster Posey is now their GM. As far as I know, I mean, I love Buster Posey as a player. I don't know that he has any front office experience. I am guessing he doesn't. I mean, so like you
Well,
just got these former
Chris Young
players,
didn't either.
right?
And
And
look
they
what
won a
he,
World
so
Series.
exactly.
So
So
I mean, it can be done, and obviously some of these player managers work out okay, but it seems like in baseball, it's more likely that the older guys tend to be the ones that come in. If you're looking for like a quick fix, I mean, you look at again the Rangers, for example. You go
Bochy,
get
yep.
Bochy. You
Yep.
pull Bochy out of retirement, win the World Series. Like I don't know that there's anybody that the Reds can bring in that's gonna like really do a whole lot in this first year, and especially if they're gonna trot out a similar roster and not go and supplement it with anybody in the offseason. So
that's the thing is, if it depends on what they do in the offseason. This might be, one of the most crucial off seasons that we have seen here in Cincinnati in a very long time. Because you've got to get your coach right, and you have to spend money.
You do. Well, and Rex pointing out that the young guy worked out in Cleveland, taking from Francona, and yes, they did go the route of installing another one of these just retired players, and then it worked out. But I would argue in Cleveland's case that worked out because of what Tito had established there, and they had the system, and everything was all kind of set up for the next guy, like just to not be horrendous, not shoot yourself in the foot, and you're gonna be all right. And honestly, I almost said the Indians, like this is the first time. The Guardians, they performed better this year than they did last year. So, Stephen Vogt in a lot of ways actually improved them. But I don't think that Cincinnati is set up and structurally in such a way that they could bring in a guy who's never managed to just take over and turn this thing around. So.
To me, I think this has to be a guy that has managerial experience.
Yeah,
I just think that, and that's what I mean. Yeah, Barry, Brazilian was a World Baseball Classic team. I think it was.
Rex said you need Ted Lasso.
We need a miracle. We need something.
Also, thank you, Biscuits, for the congrats on the playoffs. Much appreciated. Yes, we are back for all of 2 games like last year and the year before that, but 2 games is better than none, I suppose.
You could be talking about getting your manager shit canned and how your offseason is going to look. So,
there's been discussions about the way things had gone and Snicker.
We'll take him. Him.
There were discussions though that same thing as like Tito, like just might retire, like just to spend more time with his family. And so if he leaves the Braves, it wouldn't be like they fired him type thing. More like he retire, but. Yeah. I don't know, and I know that they only had him signed for another year, so it was more of a conversation within the next 2 years that could happen. But just in general, though, it was weird to hear the rumblings and rumors over the last couple of months that they are like starting that process of like looking for a replacement. Just because I've been so used to the Braves having somebody in that managerial chair for my entire childhood, it was Bobby Cox. And then even when they switched to Freddie Gonzalez for like the 10 minutes, at least Freddie was a very familiar name. He was on Bobby's staff and everything. So it was a very short stint, but it got him up out of there. And then it's been sitting here ever since. So, I'm not used to the whole like managerial like changes and swaps and having to look for all that stuff. So it's not my forte. Like I don't want to be in that position really.
You spoiled ass.
Just in general though, because even like some of the more morbid franchises, if you've at least got a stable manager, it helps smooth things over.
Oh yeah,
like because even in those years when the A's just before La Russa had left for St. Louis, when they were kind of crappy, it was like but they've got La Russa. Like you're never gonna fire La Russa.
Exactly. One name I did see today that I hadn't seen, or maybe I missed, was David Ross. What are your thoughts on that one?
David Ross. Well, that's a good one because I still don't understand why he was fired in Chicago. I mean, I know obviously you had the opportunity to get a Craig Counsell, and I guess that's hard to pass up if you're Chicago. But Craig Counsell didn't really do all that much this year. They kind of took a step back, and his former team's back in the playoffs and played better.
The same thing David Ross did.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I love Ross.
I do too. I love the guy.
And I think he did a pretty solid job as manager. Now, I hear Cubs fans tell it they weren't crazy about his bullpen usage, but I mean, honestly, you can nitpick just about any manager, and 90% of the time, it's going to be about bullpen usage because there's so many things that go on with guys in the bullpen that we have no idea about on a day-to-day basis and who's available and all that other type of stuff. That I don't care what team you're a fan of, you can probably argue, because that's always been my main gripe about Snickers. Like, yeah, he's a pretty good manager, but man, he makes some boneheaded decisions with the bullpen sometimes. But again, I chalked it up to, it's like, I don't know the inner workings. That Chris Sale find out 5 minutes the day before his start that he's not going to be able to go because he has a back issue that he's been dealing with. It's crazy shit like that gets thrown at you when you're the manager. So I imagine we'll be talking about this and discussing it at length, both once they sign and during the search. But it'll be interesting to see where the Reds go. Do they continue to go down the cheap road and just get somebody to fill the job, or are they actually looking to improve with their next hire? I don't know, man.
We'll see. I don't know.
Because, I got to say, the David Bell hire was very uninspiring when it was announced at the time, too. Like, I remember I was like, David Bell? Like, really?
I know. Yeah.
He wasn't on any radar, like a star player or anything. He's just whatever. Like, it's like, oh, okay. I guess.
Yeah. That's
sure.
Prototypical Reds, man. That's what they do.
But
where else are you going to
go? Good point. Where are you going to go?
Yeah, well, exactly.
I know where we're going to go. It's time to talk about the playoffs, man.
Thank God.
The playoffs are set. Finally. It took all the way until today after the season, actually, because last week the Mets and Braves were rained out. They had to play a doubleheader today. In fact, they're the last two teams into the playoff field, both winning parts of the doubleheader to keep the Diamondbacks at bay. And that gives us the playoff field, which I need to bring up. I do know that the Braves are heading out to San Diego, and that the Mets will be playing the Brewers in Milwaukee.
Starting tomorrow.
Yeah. There's no that was the thing with the way that everything happened today with Atlanta and the Mets. There was no chance for any respite. It was win these games, lose these games, whatever you do, you're playing tomorrow. So the Mets will play Milwaukee, the Braves will play San Diego. The Dodgers await the winner of San Diego and Atlanta. The Phillies await the winner of New York and Milwaukee. And then in the American League, Kansas City and Baltimore will play.
Damn it. That's the series I wanted to avoid.
Oh, why?
Because I like both teams. I don't want one of them to.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Kansas City and Baltimore will play. Yeah. The Yankees await the winner of that. How did the Yankees end up with the 1 seed? Where the what?
Jesus. Because they're the Yankees, that's why.
And the Tigers, baby, the Detroit Tigers and the Houston Astros will duke it out to see who gets to play the Cleveland Guardians in the next round in the American League. We got to start in the American League because your boy called that the Tigers would make the playoffs, but I said that they would win the division. They decidedly did not win the division. They finished quite a bit behind Cleveland, but look at the lowly American League Central, the afterthought division in all of baseball, with the record-setting, which we'll get to, record-setting losers in the White Sox. 121 losses to set the modern-day record for most futility in a single season. Yet the division of the American League Central gets 3 teams in the American League bracket. How fucking unbelievable is that? The Tigers left for dead at the trade deadline. They traded Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers and went on to play some of their best baseball down the stretch. I love everything about what transpired in the American League, except for the Yankees getting the 1 seed. I missed that. Like, I knew that they were like, I guess I missed the part where Baltimore fell back. Like, what the hell happened there? I guess I just kind of tuned out the
they quietly fell off. I mean, that's just how it was.
The American League East felt so decided for like months that it was kind of like I guess I just tuned it out. But and I knew the Orioles kind of were just pedaling along, but I guess I didn't realize that it was enough to fall back to the 4th seed and give the Yankees the 1. But all of that notwithstanding, like I said, the Tigers, man, big ups to the Detroit Tigers and their fans for making it on the backs of probably the Cy Young winner and Tarek Skubal. Just an incredible season. It finishes with the pitching triple crown. And I mean, that's about it. I dare anybody outside of Detroit to name, their highest paid position player is somebody who, when he got hurt, is when this playoff run started.
Dude, it's insane. Like that, we were kind of bashing him a little bit, right at the beginning. We're like, oh, well, there's no way now. I don't remember if I picked them to make it. I know I picked them to be close. I think I picked them outside.
I think you picked them. You picked them outside. I picked them to win the division, but it was because we had so little confidence in the division at all. And it was like, I know that we both dismissed it as, oh yeah, that division will get one team in. And it's just like
I had the Royals in. I had 2.
Okay.
I had Kansas City and Cleveland in.
Did you? Okay. I was going to say, it was long assumed as the season played out that Cleveland was going to make it because they were running away with it.
Oh yeah. That wasn't even close.
Kansas City, I guess, should also be applauded because while they, made the playoffs as the 5 seed, their season was all over the place, struggled, then kind of surged, then kind of fell back off, and then the last one. And we're going to talk more about it, but we talked about the Astros starting off the season in disappointing fashion. They end up as the 3 seed, but I don't think that there's any team more disappointing in the American League because I got to believe that was, if I didn't, I think I must have picked them second behind the Tigers, knowing that I picked the Tigers to win the division, but the Minnesota Twins to not even make the playoffs after last year and after mid-August being like 14 games and ahead in first, utter collapse down the stretch to not even make the playoffs in Minnesota. And Rocco, and we're talking about managers getting fired. Rocco Baldelli, even my brother, who he falls based on it, but he had mentioned the other day, we don't talk Twins all the time, but he's just like, what the hell happened to the Twins? He's like, who manages them? And I was just like, oh, it's Rocco Baldelli. He's like, Rocco Baldelli should lose his job yesterday. And I got a hard time disagreeing with it because what a pathetic job. I know that, they had injuries, but there were a lot of teams that dealt with injuries this year. We talked about it. The theme of this year of 2024 was just injuries across the board. Hell, the main reason the Braves had to play until the very last out today of the regular season was because it was just injury after injury after injury after injury. But man, the Twins just utterly fell apart. Like
Twins and the Mariners.
And the Mariners are the other team who, again, while Houston was down, had every opportunity to just run away and hide with the division. We declared them the winners at the trade deadline, and they went out and made all those moves, and it looked like, here you go, Seattle, you're on your way, and the stage is set. At the very least, the Mariners were going to make the playoffs, right, as one of the wild card teams. How do you let Detroit and Kansas City leapfrog you in the last 2 months of the season? And basically, the last show, was it the last show that we did where we talked about the Mariners firing
service?
Yeah, firing.
I think it might have been the last show.
Out of nowhere. I don't think that lit a fire under them. I don't think.
No, it didn't.
I don't think that was the answer because they played way worse without him than they ever did with him. And I know that there was a lot of upset fans and players in that organization when they let him go. But my God, there's some questions to be answered in both Minnesota and Seattle throughout this offseason.
It's crazy because, like you said, those are definitely, stunning, like literally stunning how both of those organizations did not make the playoffs. From where they were earlier to now. And then, like you were saying, great on Detroit. That is just, I'm not a Detroit fan by any means, but dude, that's awesome to see. Like that, man, to fight through everything there and, when you start
trade one of your best players.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the adversity at the trade deadline, sending Flaherty out, and it was kind of like, oh, well, maybe they are selling, to a certain extent. I mean, obviously they didn't go full on sell mode, which there's no reason to, but, when you trade a piece like that, you're like, okay, well, they're obviously, going to get rid of that contract and then,
get ready for next year.
Yeah, just kind of ride out the rest of the year. And then what the hell? Now they're in the playoffs. So, now they're a team that, oh man, okay, here we go. Now you're facing Houston in a best of 3. Oh, okay. I mean, like you said, with the Triple Crown winner, and Cy Young, who's most likely going to win, and Skubal, count me in on that. I'm here for all of it. And it's awesome to see what the Central, a division that, we had, kind of, left for dead. I was high on the Royals because of the moves they made in the offseason, and then, what they did at the trade deadline. So I was higher on them than most, but thank God they made it and make me look a little smarter. But other than that, it's 3 teams in. I love it, absolutely love it. And you've got 2 from the East. I mean, this is it's great to see, the parity in this league right now. From what we saw previously. I mean, obviously the Yankees are the Yankees; they're seemingly always going to freaking be there. But Baltimore on the up and coming, they're not going anywhere for a while. Detroit with what they've got, Kansas City with what they've got, obviously Cleveland. These teams aren't going anywhere. And that's what that's what it's exciting to see, in the American League, because, you're seeing new blood now in this playoff run here, and it's going to be a wide open, I would say a wide open American League, because to me, the Yankees had a great season, but, it's pretty easy for them to get tripped up just like it is for any other team. So, man, it's awesome. This first round's going to be, starting tomorrow, it's going to be awesome to watch. Literally from 2:32 p.m. tomorrow, the Tigers at the Astros. Damn, yeah. I can't wait.
Well, and I mean, I can find something to be excited about in both series. I need to talk about the storylines with Detroit and Houston. You got AJ Hinch, the former manager there from when Houston had their scandal. So, he won the World Series there. And we talk about Detroit and the way that their franchise is set up. Similar situation kind of to the Reds, where the last few years they've just been seemingly in nonstop rebuild. Well, they went out and got themselves an AJ Hinch. Nobody wanted him. He had to sit out for a year and all that other stuff. And, they took a little heat when they initially signed him, rumblings of cheater, this and all that other stuff. But throughout the fact that he was an established manager, a very good manager by all relative metrics and everything. Nobody was questioning how good AJ Hinch was as a manager, regardless of the situation that played out there to end his tenure there. The Tigers going higher in there, and they've struggled with him there, but they allowed him to be a good manager, and they supplied him with the players, and they signed a Flaherty. They went out and got guys that, while they may have turned around and flipped them, otherwise they got guys to help the team win and build around the players that they had there. They didn't just like the Tigers need to be a similar blueprint to what the Reds follow. Like it's same type of situation again, where they're not a big market team. They deal with similar constraints as far as attendance and all that type of stuff. But yet here they are, and they seemingly have more, a chance for more sustained success moving forward, at least in the short term, than the Reds do, despite the fact that if you asked any average fan, they could rattle off probably 2 or 3 Reds players before they could name anybody on the Tigers. Like, I dare the average baseball fan to name, even Skubal, because he's not much of a household name. Like, he's a baseball fan, Cy Young winner coming up here. Like, you got to know baseball to know who just about any of these Tigers are. So that's what's most impressive to me. And I got a lot of friends back home in Toledo that are Tigers fans, so I'm happy for them. But I will definitely be rooting for I would be rooting for them regardless. but I would definitely be rooting for them just because of the way everything kind of played out over the second half of the season. And they're young and they don't know any damn better. And if anybody's going to upset the Astros, I would I would put money on the Tigers, if only because in a 3-game series anything can happen. And you give me Scooble out there in game 1 against the Astros, let's go. Let Scooble get out there and fucking deal and have the Astros on their heels down 1-0. I'm not saying that they'll be too concerned because they've been, down in playoff series before, and this is, all they know is getting to the ALCS over the last like decade. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them there again. But I mean, you let these Tigers who don't know anything other than playing above their heads for the last few months any type of advantage in this series, and you're going to be in a world of hurt. Like they're very, I think they're matched up pretty well with the Astros, and that's not even factoring in the fact that AJ Hinch knows these guys. Like he knows all those guys on that side. So.
Well, the pitching matchups in game 1 for the 2 American League series are freaking awesome. You got Cole Reagans going up against, Corbin Burns. Damn, like that's awesome. And then
I mean that series in general. I know you said you didn't want it because of all the guys matching up, but I mean Henderson and Witt matching up against each other. Like, dude, like I love this matchup because this is like the futures game. Like this is a
legit baseball fan's dream. Is this series here?
Yes, it's the future of the game fully on display on a national stage. Yes. And this is something that you don't get to see almost ever because, the Royals are usually stuck somewhere that nobody's watching anyway, unless your team happens to be playing them. And the Orioles, again, not a household team by any, baseball fans metric. They're just not. So it's more of a baseball fans team to know all these guys. But you're about to find out about some of the best young players the game has to offer in just this one series. I think it's going to be a real fun season. And I as poorly as the Royals played down the stretch, and they come in, they just left Atlanta and only scored 1 run through the first 2 games. And they had struggled on offense for probably 3 weeks. But that offense can get hot at any time, and I don't care who you are. If you've got Bobby Witt, who's probably the best offensive player in the game right now, if not the best, he's one of the top 3. I mean, I don't want to face that guy. He's scary every time he came to the plate.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, baseball fans, the hardcores, like I said, this is the perfect, it's the perfect series. But then for, the casuals and everything like that, I urge any casual baseball fan or anybody who's just wanting to, check out, say, hey, what the hell? I'll just check out the playoffs. This is the series you tune into. Like, that's the one. Like, that is, out of all the other series we've got, in this wild card series, Baltimore, Kansas City is where it's at.
I think it has the chance to be the most competitive series of all the matchups in the
you
wild
think so?
Round. Yeah, and of the wild card round. Like it has the best chance to go 3 and be a really good series.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, because I mean, I could see Houston easily rolling over Detroit and be like, oh yeah, well, we could have seen that coming because they've been here before and the Tigers don't know any better. You've got that on the other side. We haven't talked about the National League, but it's like the Braves used everything they had just to get to this Padres series. So they're probably 2 and done. I can't imagine them going out to San Diego and even getting it back to Atlanta. And then and then the Mets and Brewers, like they just played, and I gotta believe that if the Brewers had actually given a shit yesterday, they'd have swept that series. And so. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think that series is very good. So I think that the Royals-Orioles will not only be the most fun series to watch, but the one that could be the most exciting and the biggest potentially upsetting one if you're an Orioles fan, because on paper I think that the Orioles should roll them, but in a 3-game series, Cole Reagans on the mound for the Royals. Like Royals got a good shot, man.
And you got Lugo going tomorrow. Lugo, that's the only announcement.
Wait, is
of
Lugo
game
going
two.
in? Is Lugo going in game one, or
He's
is
going
it
game two. So they've got.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I'm sorry.
So
I
I was gonna
apologize.
say Reagan's going tomorrow. That's
Yeah,
fine. I just
Reagan's
wanted to make
going
sure.
game one.
What?
Lugo game two, and
Okay.
that's the only game two starter that's been announced. So, they've got their lineup set. And it's just a matter of, kind of seeing how it plays out. I'm just kind of going through.
I would
That
imagine
game's-
the Orioles go with Eflin in game two.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, you would have to think so, but I'm like, or do you hold on? I mean, but you don't want to, you don't want to hold them on. Maybe game three, you obviously play for the, the game at hand then. So
Yeah, I would imagine
tough.
Eflin in that one. Mike,
Yeah.
wondering if we should pump the brakes on the AL Central love because they might have got fat from feasting on the White Sox. I would say in previous years, yes, but with the balanced schedule, Rex points out that everybody feasted on the White Sox, and yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, obviously
Yeah.
the divisional opponents get a few more games, but less so now. When you were
Yeah.
playing 20-some games against the division, I would say, yeah, that's absolutely probably something that's going to come up. But no, I think in their own rights, the Guardians are a very good team, regardless of division. The Tigers obviously are good enough to be here. I don't know, that they could have held their own in the West for sure. And it's as much as we're like we gave the Central crap, and we can because the White Sox are so horrible from top to bottom. I mean, does the AL West end up being like the most disappointing with having the world champs
1,000%.
and having the A's, like, because those two teams were pretty pathetic in their own right. So
Yeah.
while they may not be White Sox historically bad, they weren't great either.
I mean, that division hands down was the worst.
Right.
Because
And
you've got them
if
and
the
it's just-
Tigers
yeah.
and if the Tigers and Royals both beat out Seattle, so they're both better than those teams at the moment. So
The Angels are the Angels, the A's are the
Right.
A's. The Rangers
yeah, I
are
mean,
disappointing. So yeah, hands down, they were.
I was gonna say I think the West is actually has a stake the claim of worst division in the AL more so than the Central, even with the heavy anchor of the White Sox.
I'd
and
say worst division in baseball.
And speaking of the White Sox, Jesus God, man. 121 losses is, I mean, that's something.
That's biblical.
Yeah. And I guess 121 losses it's a number, like you see it. But then what's even more disturbing is the fact that meant that they only had 40 wins. Like,
how the hell does that happen? I mean, really?
The number is so low. Like, I mean, we're sitting there in the middle of September and they only had 36 wins. And I'm like, that's usually like a month into the season. Like, you've got, close to that. Like a month and a half in, you're near the 36. The idea
You're
that
6 months into the season. 6 months.
I mean, they basically went out there and lost every day. And I got to look at this because I want to see what the final.
They win like 5 games a month, man.
Well,
like,
yeah,
think about that. Like, Jesus Christ.
I want to see what was the final the run differential. That's what I got to see.
Oh shit, yeah.
So looking at it, they finished with the 41 wins. They finished 45 games back.
Hell yes.
The run differential was 306.
Jesus.
They gave up 306 more runs that they scored. I mean, I guess if you're going to be historically bad, you just go for it.
Oh hell yeah, they jumped in with both feet, and I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah, and looking at the way it's stacked up, the West is definitely because I'm looking at the teams right above them: Angels, Athletics, Blue Jays, and Rangers. So 3 of the other 4 or the 3 of the 5 AL West teams also down there at the bottom of the entire standing. So yeah, the Central, not the Sox, but good God, Chicago. Bad enough, and I didn't read it earlier, but I did see that Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner there of the White Sox, put out a letter to White Sox fans and I can only imagine what you would write in a letter to a fan base that you've largely ignored and disrespected and treated like they didn't matter.
Your entire reign.
Yeah, the entire time you've owned the team, like you've never given a shit. And then today he wrote a letter. I'm just gonna peruse this letter. I see the headline: as the leader of this organization, this is my ultimate responsibility. There are no excuses.
Oh, I was forgotten.
I was just gonna say,
okay, cool.
Well, thanks, Jerry. Way to take the blame for 121 losses. Like, acknowledge the season was a failure and embarrassing.
No shit. Okay. Okay.
I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know where you begin to fix a team that bad. Like, things are so poor. Like, you come into the off season, you get to these meetings, and I guess the first thing you say is, well, guys, it can't be any worse than 41 wins.
I mean, this is something where you're literally going to suck balls for like 5 years because you have to do some serious rebuilding. I mean, it's not like, you've got to get rid of some of these bad contracts.
Rex pointing out, but they had that milkshake though. No, the milkshake, the s'mores milkshake was actually the highlight of the White Sox season. That got more publicity than the team. I bet it scored more runs than the team.
Damn right it did. My God.
But I mean, you said they're going to be bad for like 5 years. I don't even think it's that so much as next year, this team is actually going to be the most improved team in baseball. Because they'll probably win 20 more games than they lost and still only finish with 60 wins.
And that's the thing,
lose 100 games next year, improve by 20 wins, and still only end up with 60 wins. That is bananas.
I mean, my thing is like, how do you even season's over with? Like, it ended yesterday.
What are those exit interviews like?
That's literally what I was going at. Like, how the hell do you come in to today and you're like, now what? Like, how the hell do you?
It's like, so where do you think we can improve?
That was fun. Now what?
And there's no light. There's no real hope. I mean, they've got, through trades and whatnot, they've amassed some higher level talent in the upper minors, but it's not like there's no saviors coming. There's no guys that you're like, well, there's no Bobby Witts on that roster. No Gunnar Hendersons. Like, they don't have, there's no Paul Skeens. There's nothing. There's nothing
to saying. Like 5 years
say like, hey guys, well, at least we've got this pipeline. Like, there's a window here where in like 3 years, like it may be rough. It's like, there's no hope right now.
That's what I'm saying. 5 years is a realistic expectation, in my opinion, because of that. You have nothing. So you have to literally, when you're rebuilding here, it's from top to bottom. I mean, you have to overhaul your 40-man, and you got to overhaul your minor league system. And that takes a long time. And it's not like, I mean, the Orioles were the beneficiary of sucking, but getting the first overall pick. So
now you can't even do that.
Now you can't even do that. And that's the thing. So it's like,
because
it's a bad time to suck.
The rules stop you from getting like a top 10 draft. Like I think this next draft, they already their pick got pushed off to out of the top 5, or they were out of the lottery, or whatever the hell it was. Like, whatever rules are, like they couldn't pick higher than 8th or 10th in this draft based on the new rules because they had already done it or whatever. So not only did you have a historically bad season, you don't even get the benefit of, well, we'll pick up the top of the draft in every round. And baseball's different. I mean, you don't have to pick at the top of the draft.
No, you don't.
There's plenty of guys that you be able, but does anybody have any confidence that this organization is going to be able to find players that are going to make a realistic difference?
That's what I'm saying. You have to go and you have to raid the Rays staff. From scouting department to front office. That's your only hope right now, because they're able to find the diamond in the rough every 5 minutes. It's unbelievable. That's what they have to do. And I don't know if I feel so bad for White Sox fans, because it is literally, I mean, you're in deep, and it sucks because, like I said, there's nothing. there's no immediate fix. You're not going to be able to go out there and spend a ton of money. It's not going to happen. So, oh boy, man. Yeah, it's going to take a couple of years for this to even remotely begin to turn around.
Well, we already know Jerry's not going to spend. He's sitting there. He's sitting there begging for, excuse me, begging for forgiveness. It won't do the things it takes to be forgotten or be forgiven. Like, he's not going to go out and spend money. They never have. They're going to try to develop. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that they didn't want to start the rebuild. They had all those guys that they had overpaid and they tried to develop them and get more out of them than they did in between underperformance and largely just injury. Like, I mean, a lot of it was bad luck. They had assembled a decent enough roster of talent, but none of it could stay healthy. And the writing was on the wall with that at least 2 years ago, if not 3, that they needed to start moving off of some of these injury prone guys and start, trying something different. And they didn't. So they did this to themselves. There is no quick fix. They're an organization that doesn't spend to make things happen, despite being in Chicago, a giant market, having all the benefits that come with it. Like, it's kind of sad that it went so south so quickly, and now teams like the Marlins and the Pirates and piss poor run organizations like that look like fucking the crown jewel of the sport compared to the White Sox. Like, if we put the over under at 5 years, and let's just go on ahead and say by 2030 the White Sox might be competitive again.
Holy shit.
Like, how sad is that? I mean, you put it out at 5 years, we're at 2030 before they might field a roster that's a roster that might be nearly as good as the one that the Tigers have to sneak into the playoffs. And that's not even saying that they would have like a Cy Young candidate, but just having a roster of young, capable players that could play at a level to sneak into the playoffs in a situation like 2030.
Well, and that's the thing is, are they can accelerate the rebuild to make it like up to maybe 3 years if you spend money, get the right players to come in, and then you're going to have to deal those guys at the deadline or off season, however you handle it, bring the most, get the most impact back. And that's how you're going to have to start doing it. But there again, like you said, you got to spend the money. Jerry's not going to do that. Yeah. And, that's the problem here.
Well, and then going back to the point about getting it right and making sure you get the right person in charge and all the other stuff they tried. Berlon pointing out, they were sunk when their answer to finding a manager to leading all their young, fun talent was 95-year-old Tony La Russa. And that's where we circle back to the Reds, where it's just like, you've got these guys and you have got to make sure that you make the right hire, because you hire the wrong guy and, the Reds could be looking like the White Sox within the next couple years. They get rid of the crop of guys that they got in there now, or they outprice themselves, whatever it may be. Cincinnati could be in a similar situation. Again, I don't think that they will be, because I mean, the White Sox they've historically fucked this. They historically have just fucked this.
This has been one of the most piss poor, managerial jobs not managerial in terms of like coaching, but
but organization,
managing the entire organization. Yeah. This has been the most piss poor, job that we've probably ever seen. Like, it is incredibly bad. With the A's, exactly what to expect. They had a model that they stuck with for a long time. They saw success within that time frame, and then next thing you know, they're shipping guys out. Same with the Marlins. Marlins would do the same thing. You get a year or two of success, ship guys out, and it was that continuous cycle. This right here, again, my God, this is This is rough. And I see, what the heck?
That was me responding to Mike saying that I was powering through the the segment of the coughs, hiccups.
I saw that. I know.
I really was dying in the last 5 minutes.
I was
but
like,
Mike's
my
saying
God.
that I deserve an MVP for powering through the hiccups, burps, and coughs for this entire segment. Yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle. But anyway, I think I'm back now. You mentioned the A's. We were sitting there talking about the White Sox, and I don't want the A's and their situation to go undiscussed. They've played their final game in Oakland, and they are no longer the Oakland A's. They are now just the Athletics. They will be playing in Sacramento or whatever the hell travesty of a situation that they've figured out. And just as sad a situation, but possibly more so just because of the tradition and just the
history.
Oakland. Yeah, well, Oakland has a special place in my heart because my grandfather was an Oakland A's fan. And it would make him very, very sad to see how things have played out. And I always kind of had a thing for the A's because, that was Grandpa's team. And, it was real fun to watch them during the big three run that they had with Mulder, Zito, and Hudson and all those moments that they had in the 2000s when they trotted in through Moneyball and all that. And seeing my grandpa be excited about the A's because, he's mostly just bitter baseball fan through my childhood because they were pretty terrible, but he was always about them. And if they showed anytime they showed any type of promise, hey, you seen my A's lately? It's sad that a franchise with that much history and success throughout their history was reduced to, the playing conditions that they've dealt with for the last decade plus. And then the unceremonious way that everything just fell apart. And now they're just kind of a rudderless franchise, no home. This Las Vegas thing, I think, is a scam because they still have no plans. And
that's weird.
I think this whole thing's going to end up falling apart, and baseball is ultimately going to end up having to step in. And this is going to turn into like the Expos situation where they're going to have to either take over ownership or find a play. It's just been such a mess, and it's come to an end in Oakland, and it's real fucking sad, man.
It is.
And it didn't have to be this way.
No, exactly. But again, baseball.
Baseball.
We say it, we joke about it, and that's so damn true, and it sucks. An organization with the history that they have, and man, just to end the way it did. And, it sucks for any fan base to have their team taken from them. And, it just happened in the NHL with the Coyotes moving up to Utah. It sucks. And we saw it in the NFL, the Raiders moving to Vegas. Again, another Oakland team moving out. You had San Diego losing the Chargers, going to LA, St. Louis losing the Rams multiple times. We had the Rams, Cardinals, and they've lost them. It's unfortunate because it's these owners and just their mentality sometimes, and the give a shit factor that they don't have sucks for a lot. And but it was cool to see, the Oakland Coliseum jam-packed.
Yeah.
Last game. It was awesome. It just,
and seeing grown men in tears, the Browns crew and all the guys out in the bullpen scooping up dirt for the fans asking for it. There were a ton of really cool moments, just unnecessary moments. I can't believe that. I can't believe that all the parties involved in this litigation. I can't believe that Oakland didn't step up enough to keep the team. I can't believe that the A's ownership was so goddamn cheap for years and they're main driving force. And I can't believe that baseball just sat on their hands and watched it all unfold and didn't step in and make one side do something about it, be more forceful, like, or and then find a better situation if it couldn't be worked out, and if Oakland absolutely refused, then find a better situation than playing in a college stadium for a year in Sacramento while we, I guess, figure out this Las Vegas situation that, again, I still think it's a scam, because they don't have any plans. They haven't laid any groundwork. They're still sitting there in Las Vegas saying, hey, what's going on? And the A's are like, yeah, we're coming. And nobody knows what's going on with that whole thing. So, I see this all ending even worse than it already has. Like, it's so unavoidable.
It is. And that's what we see seemingly every single time with an ownership group, that it's all avoidable. And it's whether it goes from the league not doing something about it to the the ownership themselves. Some of it just makes no sense. But again, baseball seemingly is filled with ownership groups that suck way more than any other sport. It's just, again, and I one thing we've said numerous times on here is, you spend money, you spend the money, it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. Your stands are going to be filled. It's part of it. And if you show a fan base that you care and you're doing everything you want and
they will stay loyal.
Win, exactly. Instead, you get the White Sox, you get the A's, which are gone. You get the Reds, who have the promise, but then look at them. The Marlins every single year. The Angels. It is just sickening. So many years that you see multiple franchises continue to screw something up, and unfortunately now this one is another team that is moving and ripping the hearts out of a fan base that has been fantastic for so long. And again, I hate it for Oakland. It's a damn shame.
Yeah. I guess I want to shift things away from talking about the downer parts. The White Sox and the A's. Those are two of the things, and we spent a whole bunch of the show this year talking about injuries and crap. Let's talk about the really great things that happened in baseball this year, and then we'll go back to and kind of wrap up the playoff talks. We talked all about the American League and how excited we are about that. It barely.
Damn, we went sideways, man.
No, but it's like we're talking about the context with the AL and everything. And I guess it's fine. And it's like, and we'll get back to the National League. And the reason it's like, I really don't have a whole lot to say about the National League. The National League is very just whatever. Like, compared to the American League, maybe that's my familiarity with it. Maybe it's just because I think the Braves are just going to go get the teeth kicked in, and this is going to be a short trip. I don't know, but the National League doesn't excite me all that much. But let's talk about what did excite me this season. The youth. I know we've talked about it a lot, but the years that Skeens and Langford and Churio and Merrill Kelly and just not Merrill Kelly, Jackson Merrill rather. Merrill Kelly's an old ass these days.
I was gonna say, I'm like, okay.
And obviously Bobby Witt, kind of slides in there. He's more of an elder statesman compared to the rookies. But man, what a fun year when you take away all the injuries and all the nonsense for just the youth, man. Like, it was so fun to watch Skeens just carve up. And then he put the coup de grace on what was just a fantastic rookie season. And we talked about, Strasburg and him being these two phenoms and having these expectations and seeing all sorts of guys come before and that will come after them that didn't live up to those expectations. But from just about the minute Skeens showed up to, the final pitch that he threw in New York this past weekend, he came as advertised. The guy, the only thing that's going to stop Paul Skeens is health.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I told my brother the other day, who's a Pirates fan, I'm like, look, I hope that Skeens, because I'm not I am not one that actively roots for players to leave teams. I'd rather the guys that get drafted and stick around for as long as possible. And if they're going to sign somewhere, it'd not be New York and preferably Atlanta. But guys like Skeens and guys like that get drafted, I like to see them stay there, and I hope he stays there for as long as he possibly can. But the reality is that Pittsburgh will ship him off, or they'll lose him at some point, because that's what Pittsburgh does. And man, the only thing that I see getting in the way of his career is him ending up like Strasburg and him having to call it early, or like Kerry Wood, in us getting it ripped away from us, because if he's allowed to have a full career, my God, the things that Skeens is going to do, he is him. He's that good.
Yeah, 1,000%. And the one thing that it sucks to see from Skeens was, every pitch you throw, that meter goes down.
One pitch closer to Tommy John.
Exactly. And his time at LSU, the dude was throwing 120 plus pitches every single game. And granted, high leverage pitches are, it's a different, it's different than a non-high leverage pitch. But it's still a pitch, though, and that's what is, concerning for a guy like Paul Skeens, because the dude is nasty. I mean, his arsenal is truly disgusting, and for him to go, and we questioned the Pirates and their handling of him early on, and.
I think they did a fantastic job end of the day, honestly.
That's what I was going to say. Looking at it now, we questioned it. What's that?
I said they did right by him. I mean, I could see where maybe it was a little later than people wanted and all that, and then once he did get in there, it seemed like they were kind of baby him. But when they took the training wheels off, and the amount that they let him go, like they didn't shut him down early, I think that they handle him as I say. Now, you go out there and you give him his first full regular MLB off season after having pitched in the majors. You make sure he gets the rest he needs, and that he's ready to go the minute the pitchers and catchers report, and you hit the ground running. I don't see any reason why he's not number one on that pitching staff right now. Just pen him in, don't pencil, pen him in as the ace of staff next year, and let's go.
Bingo. And that's what you have to do as a franchise like that. You've got your guy. You've got him for a couple years at least, like you said, before they ship him off or lose him in free agency. Take advantage of it. And like you said, they did him right, and in the way they handled him. Now you roll with that, and you give him every opportunity. It was like once they, that first start, once they realized what he was, and they saw it, and they're like, oh shit, we can't justify, having this guy pitch 60 pitches a game. There ain't no way in hell. It's just, for what he brings and what he delivers, this is something that, we are so lucky. And it's continuously brought up on the show each and every episode. We are so lucky as baseball fans to see, the talent in this league that we are. And, from the very top of Ohtani, who is a unicorn, to the fresh guys in there like a Skeens, even Rhett Lauder for Cincinnati. And I've said it before, if you want to watch a phenomenal pitching matchup, Rhett Lauder versus Paul Skeens in the College World Series. Excuse me. That pitching matchup was unbelievable. That was one of the best pitch games you're ever going to watch. And now both those guys are, they're here now in the league. And Rhett Lauder was fantastic for the Reds, and obviously you saw Skeens. So where this talent level is right now, and it's only going to get better with the guys that are going to be funneled through, and with the college guys now, like I said, they're more and more ready to make an impact at a much quicker time frame than in years past. So it's only going to get better.
Well, and if you're some of these teams that struggle to hold on to them and struggle to keep them beyond that first contract for whatever reason, you might as well. I mean, you got Skeens coming up in his first year, and now you get 5 more years of him before he's a free agent. When you throw in the arbitration years, yeah, a kid like James Wood who came up halfway through the season for the Nationals, he looks like a keeper. He looks like a stud. Wyatt Langford, who we talked about all year, who came out like gangbusters in spring training. And had a solid overall year, not as spectacular as many people thought, but again, a very bright spot for the Rangers, and honestly, one of the more consistent player for the Rangers this year based on everything they had to deal with. But just a lot of names that are out there that are going to be front and center over the next few years. And yeah, I mean, some of these franchises that struggle to keep those guys might as well bring them up. Might as well showcase them while you've got them rather than hit them. I mean, we talked about Garrett Crochet earlier this year and not wanting to get traded at the trade deadline and all that. Well, part of the reason the White Sox, besides the fact that they're epically horrendous, were wanting to get rid of him is he's only got 3 years left on the they've got to think about getting rid of him. He's got limited time, and that's because he's down there, developed, hurt, all that other stuff, and this was the first chance they really had to use him. When your team like that, you don't have the luxury necessarily anymore of keeping a guy in the minors for the first 3 or 4 years of his career until you think he's absolutely ready to be an everyday player at the big league level. You just got to go with it, and it's to the benefit of us because while they're learning on the job, we generally just get to see the results. Like I don't watch James Wood strike out 3 or 4 times a night. I only see the highlights when James Wood is out there, slugging home runs 450 feet and stealing 2 or 3 bases a night. But
it's impressive as hell.
Right. Yeah. And he's doing that for the Nationals now. When the Nationals presumably continue to get better, he'll be one of the guys right there who's gotten all those reps. Again, it's something that the Nationals have to think about because they're not able to keep guys like that necessarily. So
yeah,
it's the game has evolved in that way, but I think it'll continue to flourish in the way of us getting these younger names and talented guys up quicker because they don't have much of a choice. So, it's exciting and I enjoy it. Once upon a time, it's funny, back in the day when it didn't happen a lot, I wouldn't have skewed younger. And now as I get older, I'm like, get these young guys in there, get these old guys the hell up out the paint, man.
Oh, I know.
It's bogging things down. Like you're 27. Oh God.
Oh man.
This guy. He's
God,
almost 30.
I was gonna say,
like everybody's turned into a running back. You're like, the tread on his tires are almost gone. Jeez.
Turned into a running back. I like that.
Which is crazy because for in baseball years, usually like these guys really don't start slowing down until like they're 32-ish.
I was just going to say 32, 33.
Yeah, that's about when you see the first signs of slowing down. So all those years prior,
we want guys retired by then. So now we're good. Get them out of here.
And 27, that's supposed to be the prime, but even still, like just jokingly, as the players get younger and they're starring at an earlier age, it's like, oh man, I don't know if I want a guy around. It's like the average age in my infield is what? Needs to be closer to 20. Matt's asking me if I saw the bunch of the Mets players and the Braves did joint celebrations in the field. No, I'm going to pretend like that didn't happen because I didn't do joint celebrations with the Mets fans, and I'll never be doing such a thing.
Oh, you can't. If your team does it, you have to enjoy it.
No, man. I hope the Mets die. I hope they burn in hell.
Scott, man, that's rough, dude.
Yeah, hate dies hard. I took no joy. I didn't give 2 fucks about the fact that the Mets got to celebrate in Atlanta. That didn't sit well with me, but it's okay. It's all good. They'll go do their thing, and we'll go do ours. And I feel confident in saying this for both teams. We'll see you in April. That's how I feel about it. Because
at least you know it. At least you know it.
And before we get back to talking about the playoffs and kind of wrap things up, I kind of running through the playoffs. There's only one other thing that we got to talk about. Fucking Shohei, man. I mean, what a ridiculous season. I mean, amongst all the ridiculous things we've already talked about and just all the nonsense that's going to happen along the way, the idea that there's now a singular member of the 50-50 club, and he was this close to being the only member of the 60-60 club is absolutely bananas. He took off a year from pitching after, having the internal brace procedure done. So he does pitch, and all he does this year is go out and have a record-setting year. Generational is starting to become a word that it just doesn't even fit anymore for Ohtani. Like, I mean, it's crazy what he does. Like, I would have never imagined a dude that big could steal 60 bases, and I don't give a shit if they've changed the rule to make it easier.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Because even if people want to say like, well, it's easier to steal bases now, okay, fine, cut it, take 30 off of that.
Yeah.
A guy of Ichiro's size hitting 50 home runs and stealing 30 bags. It's like, it's insane no matter what way you slice it. But just what an incredible season. And the Dodgers, as much as we talked about, the money that they spent and all that other stuff, I joked with my brother the other day. I'm like, you think the Dodgers are sitting there like, like obviously they're not regretting the fact that they gave them the deal that they gave them. They $800 million well spent. But you think anywhere somebody's like, maybe he just never pitches again. Like, maybe we'll get our money's worth even if he never pitches. Like, because if he's gonna, because you didn't sign him thinking 50, 55, 50 home runs and 56 or whatever the hell stolen bases was coming. So, like, that's just this added bonus. And I wonder what it's going to look like. Like, what do his numbers look like when he pitches? Because we already saw them before, but he wasn't stealing bases like that. Does he slow down again? Does he go back to just did the home runs go back down? Like, I don't even know. Or is like this is the new level for him? Like,
it's insane. Like, it is insane. And when it comes to Ohtani, the great part is he's with the Dodgers. I know it, it's going to pain you to hear that and everything like that, but the amount of press that the Dodgers get, this is perfect for baseball and perfect for Ohtani. Because now, when Ohtani was in Anaheim, playing for the Angels, you didn't get as much press as you are now just up the road in Los Angeles. So the fact that he's doing this all now on a team that is, loaded with talent, loaded with superstars, makes this even better and makes this more of an impact as well. And hot damn, we get to see him in the playoffs. Like that, I mean, if we could only get that from Mike Trout. But now, thank God we're going to get it from Shohei. And, I've told my boys, I look at them like, man, we are so freaking lucky that we get to watch Shohei. I mean, he's one of those players that you're going to be able to tell your kids and grandkids, hey, I watched Shohei play. I mean, and that's awesome. Like, I can, I've told my boys like, hey, I've watched Bo Jackson, I've watched Griffey, but now they can even say to their kids, like, I watched Shohei. And that's awesome because he's truly one of a kind. And, what he did this year, absolutely remarkable. And now that he gets to showcase that in the biggest stage in the playoffs, it just makes it even better.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun to see what they've got.
Yeah.
All the worst to the team, though. I will say that.
Damn it. Like, just
Dodgers to do shit other than
Don't be a negative dick. Like, come on, just
to go home early. But let me not go too far on my hate train and spin out of control here. Let's
too late. You are already like full of
Let's-
piss and vinegar already.
let's
Your team
focus
made the
here
damn
around-
playoffs.
I know, man. And let's
And you were
focus
just
and wrap
hating.
things up. Who do you got? Who are your winners, and who's going to take it all?
Are we gonna go each series, or you just want to go like?
Let's
just
go each
overall?
series, and let's start in the American League side since we got so excited to talk about that. So Detroit and Houston, who do you got?
I'm gonna go. I'll go with Houston, which means Detroit's gonna win because I doubted them before. But yeah, I'm gonna go Houston. I think the experience, I think that goes a long way.
Okay, I'm gonna say Houston in 3, but I do think that Detroit wins game 1. I'm gonna give game 1 to Detroit with Skubal on the mound, and then I think Houston comes back and wins the next 2 to move on. So little scare.
I'll go Houston in 3. I agree.
Yeah, little scare for Houston, but they will take care of business. All right, moving to KC and Baltimore.
Tie. I like them both. I go. You know what? I might go the Royals in 3 because I think Reagan's can. I think he can steal game 1, and then depending on what you go with from there, I'm. And it sucks. I hate doing that because I think Baltimore is really good. I'm going to go Royals in 3, which means it can be the Orioles in 3.
Well,
I'm
going to go Orioles in 3, but I do think you're right. I think that Reagan's in Kansas City steal game 1. I do, but I think that then Orioles go on ahead and take care of that. Like I just think that the starting pitching for both Detroit and Kansas City, I give that slight edge because of their starter. And I only like Skubal slightly better than Corbin Burns for the Orioles, but I'll take that slight advantage and go on ahead and give it to the Orioles. Give it to the Royals in game 1. That being said, Orioles, and then that matches us up with we both would have Cleveland and Houston in the next round. Who are you taking there?
Oh man, I will say I might go Houston in 5 because we've seen that's hard because the teams that have the bye have struggled, and I think with Houston being as talented as they are and as experienced as they are, I think that's going to be a series that could go the distance. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'll go Houston in 5.
I'm going to go Houston as well. I'm going to give Cleveland 1 win, and then to be individual. So yeah, I guess I'll go Houston in 4. I like what Cleveland's done this year, but I don't think there's any way that you're stopping Houston from getting to another ALCS.
Yeah, of course.
And Cleveland, I don't know that they've got enough offensive firepower. They might this time around. This is probably their best offensive team that they've had in a little while, and I wouldn't count Cleveland out, but Houston just seems like they're on a rampage again, so it's hard to pick against them.
Yeah, they're like the Kansas City Chiefs. Like they find ways.
Yeah.
And they're so experienced and they're so talented.
Right. Yeah, they've just been here so many damn times.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's going to be, in terms of the division series, that division series is going to be phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, I was going to say
that is hands down the best one out of all the possibilities. I think that would be the best one.
All right, and then going to the other one, if you've got KC, they would take on the Yankees, and I have Baltimore taking on the Yankees. So who do you have winning KC in New York?
I'm going to go Kansas City because I hate New York. So that's the only reason. I mean, logically, the Yankees, but I hate them. So I want to go with I'll be realistic here. I'll go the freaking Yankees. And I'll say 4.
I'm going
God,
to go.
I just threw up in my mouth. Ugh.
I'm going to go Baltimore in 5, and that was
Oh,
part
God.
of the reason that I didn't pick Kansas City, because I don't think Kansas City has a single shot against the Yankees. But I do think that Baltimore is familiar enough and has enough talent to get past New York. And I do think it would take 5 games, but the Yankees get off to a slow start, having you talked about the bye week or the bye round, so they sit at home getting a little rusty. Baltimore comes in having beat Kansas City. I see them taking game 1 of that series, maybe even sneaking game 2. But I think that New York is strong enough to be able to take a game or 2 there and push it to the limit. So
I was gonna say if it's Kansas City that beats Baltimore, the Yankees win. If Baltimore, I agree with you 1,000%. If Baltimore beats Kansas City, they beat the Yankees. I think at that point they played them well this year. I think that they will beat them in the next round.
And so that would lead us to assuming that assuming your predictions are correct, that would leave us with a Yankees Astros ALCS, like we haven't seen that a million times. Or on my side, it would be the Astros and Baltimore. Who you got?
God. Why did I do this to myself?
So the Astros in the World Series. Got it.
Actually, didn't I pick that before? I think I did. Or did I?
I don't know if you did or not.
I don't remember. I think I did.
No. I think you picked Baltimore to make it to the World Series originally, and our initial picks.
Yeah.
Because I think I did too. I think I had.
Shit, can I change all this around then?
Yeah, no.
I can't go against what I just said before. Damn it. Well, if it's Baltimore, I'm going. If Baltimore, like I said, if Baltimore gets past Kansas City, they will make it through to the World Series. But since I didn't pick them, doesn't matter. I will go with. God, I'm actually going to root for the Astros, so I'll go with the Astros in this one. I'll say Astros in 6.
Okay, and if it's the Orioles and Astros, for me, I'm gonna have to go the same way. Astros in 6. I just feel like no matter what, I think Houston is back in the World Series. I don't see anybody that's gonna dethrone them on that side. I don't necessarily think they're gonna win it all, but I don't think that the AL is going to present much attention. Okay, jumping over to the National League, Mets and Milwaukee. Who you got?
Milwaukee. 2.
Milwaukee in 2. I'm gonna say Milwaukee in 3. Let's give the stupid Mets 1 game. Braves and Padres.
Padres 2.
Yeah, Padres in 2. Yep.
I just think both Mets and Braves blew their wad.
Well,
that's really what it comes down
Braves
to.
absolutely did, and I flying across country on top of that, like the Padres look really good and have for a few weeks. I don't think that Atlanta's got a shot against them, so I'm going Padres in 2, and I'll go Milwaukee in 3. All right, so that puts Milwaukee up against Philadelphia.
I'll go Philadelphia. I just think I don't have enough faith in Milwaukee to see. Again, it's hard because the teams that have the bye has thrown a wrench in everything.
I'm just gonna go with the fact that I'm leapfrog here. I'm gonna go Philadelphia, and it's simply because the pitching. I don't think. I don't think Milwaukee matches up with their pitching.
No, they don't. But I think coming in hot like they would. So you're saying in 5? I mean, would you? How many games?
No, I would say Philadelphia in 3 games.
3, yeah. So they clean sweep. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would say maybe 4. I think maybe they could sneak one out.
Yeah, it's not going to matter.
No, it's not going to matter at all.
Philly in 3 or 4.
Yeah, agreed.
And then that brings us to LA and San Diego.
LA in. I can see that one going 5. That's just that's a series that those two just damn like that. I can see that one going 5.
I'm gonna regret this, but I'm going, and it's not just because I hate him. It's starting pitching. I'm going San Diego in 4. LA's got a real problem with that starting rotation.
No, they do. They have a big problem. That's why I picked them in 5.
No Glass now. Flaherty's just been okay since the trade. I mean, he's been good, but he hasn't been as good as he was earlier in the season. And then after that, I don't know who the hell they've got started.
I was going to say, I was going to try and look up their rotation. I don't even know.
They've been decimated by injuries, and so I think that LA is in trouble. I don't know who is going to take the ball in those games, and so if you're not out hitting, and I think San Diego is playing with a lot of confidence. They beat LA 2 out of 3 last week to get into the playoffs, and I think San Diego has finally gotten over being little brother a little bit, and so I think that they beat LA in 4. So that I've got LA and Philly in the NLCS.
At which San point you Philly?
San Diego, yes. Sorry, San Diego and Philly, and that you have LA and Philly rather.
Yeah, I want to go with LA because I want to see Ohtani make it, and that's really the sole reason. But Philadelphia, they're just shit. I'm losing headphones and everything. Jesus, Philadelphia, and I can see as soon as 5. I'll give the talent of LA. I'll give them 6 games. So I'll say Philly in 6.
We got a rematch. Philly in 6 over San Diego, but Houston takes down Philly in the World Series yet again in a World Series rematch. Houston gets the best of Philly for me.
I'm going Philly. You're
going Philly over Houston?
Yeah, I'm going Philly over Houston. I am.
Fair enough.
I'll say 6 games. What the hell? You know what? No, let's make it 7.
I'm going to go Houston in 6.
I'll go Philly in 7 just because make it fun to watch.
Alrighty, so Houston for me, Philly for you, but we have both Houston and Philly in the World Series. So different way of getting there, but same two teams at the end. So
yeah, it's one thing's for certain: playoffs are going to kick ass. We know that.
That's one thing that never fails to impress is the baseball playoffs. The season may be long, it may be frustrating, it may be irritating at certain points, but the playoffs never fucking disappoint.
Exactly.
And I am looking forward to them very much, even if I don't think that Atlanta is going to have very much of a run. Like I really just it's gonna be rough. But
yeah.
Again, it's better to be there than to not be there. And as long as the season was, if I only get to watch Atlanta for 2 more times, and that's 2 more times I get to watch baseball this year and actually care about the outcome. So I'll take it.
See, there you go. It's the little things. That's how we're gonna approach it. It's the little things.
Well, I mean, that's all I got, man. Hell of a last couple of weeks.
It was fun, man. It was fun.
It was. I missed it, man. I missed you.
I know. I know.
This is a good time. We are going to have to. I mean, I guess we'll do another show next week. Like now that the playoffs are in, we got to make sure we don't miss a week. I think my schedule works out that I should be good for the next couple. So as long as you're in, I'm in.
I should be in. Shouldn't have a problem.
All
with
right.
me.
Well, we hope that you guys are in as well. Thank you for checking in with us and sticking around and coming back to watching Backwards K Baseball. We really do appreciate it. You can find us everywhere you find all your favorite podcasts. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. The Impact Sports Cincinnati Network. And, of course, Craft Brewed Sports Podcast Network. And you can find us on YouTube and the replays and live here every week. Chris and I love doing this. Again, sorry it's been a few weeks since we had off. R.I.P. Pete Rose. Enjoy some baseball, y'all. It's the playoffs. Don't get much better than that. We'll catch you here next week. See you, everybody.